Good evening and welcome to the Joko. And as you can see, we're in a little different kind of, I don't even know what to call it, uh, platforming, one
Arrangement.
camera
Yeah.
tonight. I'm Brother Youssef, member of the Joko.
I'm Sister
Welcome.
Tasha, member of the Joko. Welcome.
And is that all you got to say as we're getting
And
started?
as we're getting started, well, I'll say what I always say. We come in gratitude for all of our parenting generations, peoples, as well as experiences and right everything that has had an influence in shaping us to come to this moment of being people who are enthused, inspired, passionate about helping to bring about a just world, helping to bring about the dismantling, as they say, of these oppressive structures. And we salute always and acknowledge always um, those champions of the African world family to which we belong, who have moved mountains and with their ideas and cleverness and courage and heart and resourcefulness
Excuse me.
in um, that same quest to dismantle oppressive structures and to create peace and plenty for the peoples of the planet. We acknowledge always the people of the First Nations here um, in these lands of so called North America, in these lands of so called Los Angeles, the uh, lands of the Tongva people, recognizing that it's at their hospitality and the hospitality of their ancestors that we do any of the liberation work that we do, that we live, move, and have our being, our daily life. Um, is at their hospitality, and we appreciate all of their energetic guidance from invisible realms and appreciating building our comradeship with their children um, on this side of the veil. And that's how we start. And so we have started that way.
Land back worldwide.
Indeed.
So the topic for tonight, if you see the title, Anti-Blackness on Parade. And there's nothing new about it, right? I mean, anti-Blackness is, as American, actually it's more American than apple pie, because apple pie is actually Dutch. The
Great.
So anyway, thought it was, could spend a little time revisiting that. It's a topic we could always revisit, but I've just, noticed. Well, actually, since you're here, I feel like I should look at you here.
Right. We need to be talking, right? We could talk.
It's just the amplification, right, of particularly anti-Black racism. I mean, all the various forms of racism are feeling, or at least the racists are energized right now.
Yes.
But I'm, just recently struck by the renewed enthusiasm for anti-Black racism.
Mm-hmm.
In this particular political climate, and this moment of reaction, and the conservative and reactionary movement, tendencies, activism, in the United States has been animated since the 1960s by backlash, right? Backlash against um, Black progress, Black demand for human rights, justice, access to power, access to resources, the desire to live on our own terms, even, right? And so it's been 50 years, 60 years of backlash, right? And but now, culminating in the MAGA movement, really, and that politics of resentment. I know there was a lot of consternation a year ago about the role of identity politics in the election, um, often used as a term against the Democratic Party. What passes for the left in the mainstream of politics, and actually, complaints against an actual left in this country about it, spending too much time, paying too much attention to so-called identity politics, meaning Black identification, Black identity politics, maybe Latinx identity politics, certainly LGBTQ plus, and especially trans identity politics. But the real identity politics, the whole, it's actually the assessments are correct, right? Because identity politics did drive the election, but it was
whose identity?
White and primarily male.
Yes.
Christian, straight identity politics.
Yes.
I mean, they they leaned, but what's new again? Anyway, just thinking about that identity politics and ideas of race and racism, and what we fight against, right? Is the struggle against racism, the ideas in white people's heads, ideas that have been internalized by all the various communities of color, the global South communities, the traditionally present communities in on this turtle island, right? The indigenous folks, the displaced and misplaced Africans, and the journeys of the various European ethnic groups into whiteness, right? As they're welcomed into whiteness, as long as they learn the lessons of anti-Blackness, right? And practicing that anti-Blackness. But we also recognize racism, what we call racism, and notions of race are colonial ideology, right? They're the ideas that have been used to justify the colonial project, particularly under the guise of some kind of civilizing project or Christianizing project. So it is colonial ideology, right? And the struggle against racism is a struggle against colonialism. And if it isn't a struggle, if it doesn't recognize that we struggle against racism because we're struggling against colonialism, it's always going to come up short, right? But I wanted to emphasize, though, or just make the point that racism, right, is colonial ideology, right? It's ideas. But ideas are an ideology. All ideologies are embodied, right? They become praxis. And there's a praxis of racism that ends up being like the inner workings, the mechanisms of the colonialism, and that monopoly on power, right, by the colonizing nation. The colonialist in it, the active colonialist, and those who just benefit from the colonial situation. So to me, it's incomplete to only think of racism as the ideas in white people's heads. Like all culture, those ideas are embodied, enacted They become the mechanisms of everyday life, the life ways of the society and the culture. They are the colonial practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just, got anything to add? Because I'm just
Add
going
to that.
on. Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the relevant conversation to describe the last, what, 600 some odd years of lifeways
Mm-hmm.
and layering of those lifeways and the
Mm-hmm.
expanding of those lifeways and technologies expanding in the name of those lifeways and to
Mm-hmm.
serve and uphold those lifeways, right? So entrenched is a there's an entrenchment. And I also have learned to keep myself reminded, to embody the praxis and the practice of remembering that as long as that has been entrenching itself, so has our resistance, and
Mm-hmm.
so has our ingenuity, and so has our, ability to just miraculously emerge from these, from these incredibly oppressive circumstances, and operations, right, and
Mm-hmm.
mechanisms, and we do, um,
Mm-hmm.
and so as we always say and we always talk about, and I've been thinking so much lately about the Wizard of Oz and Oz and the great powerful Oz, and you pull
Mm-hmm.
back the curtain and it's this guy working working machine, and the power of, or the impressiveness and the impact of the propaganda of white supremacy, you know. So it's so important to keep on building that narrative that subverts that white supremacist um, hierarchy and belief system, and points out all the ways it's entrenched and connected, because it's become such, in so many ways, such a matter of fact, such a taken for granted, um, just such a, just all of these kinds of the natural and the obvious, presumptions. But yeah, we're also overturning those, and as much as it's a moment for, um, or one of the benefits of this moment of blatant anti-blackness is the opportunity to knock down those monsters as they rear their heads,
Mm-hmm.
these the narrative monsters. One, in particular, that I'm thinking of in these days, that I've just seen quite a bit, dealt with by quite a few people on social media, in the context of the big beautiful bill and the, uh, retracting of social services, or kind of that final would be victory to snatch out social services, and now the whole the SNAP benefit piece, and the people have been having a lot of conversation about the myth of the black welfare queen, and the myth of the, of who uses um, these social systems, and or these social services and whatnot, and so that as these things are rearing their heads, there's a lot of verbal um, counter
Well, that's what I
point.
wanted to talk about specifically,
Mm-hmm.
because of the way in which it's emerging,
Mm-hmm.
particularly around the SNAP benefits,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, the long lived mythologies,
Mm-hmm.
particularly around um, the social, any kind of social welfare or social safety
Mm-hmm.
net.
Mm-hmm.
Just that, right? Because we coming out of the '60s, coming out of the '70s, and there was direct challenge to the racist structures, calling them out, and across various sectors of the society. Besides the political, and then the ways in which the Black freedom movement evolved, um, both as a struggle for civil rights, human rights, a struggle for national liberation. Dovetailing with what is one of the most silenced movements coming out of the '60s into the early '70s, the welfare rights movement, right? That just completely squashed in the narratives of the time. Although folks were quite well organized at the time, but I'm not trying to get stuck there. That's the reforms of the mid 1960s, particularly the legislative reforms, right? The official ending of Jim Crow, segregation, the I hesitate to use the word integrating, right? But the opening up of the schools, so that folks could go to, or at least have the opportunity to go to a school in their close to their neighborhood, even if it was a so-called white school. All of those things, right? By the time we get to the 1980s, and indeed 1980, never mind the racist symbolism and intentionality of it, of Ronald Reagan opening his campaign in, what was it, Philadelphia, Mississippi, right? The place where Cheney, Goodman, and Schwerner were murdered. Never mind this open signal. It has been certainly the official line of the Republican Party, with enough Democrats, chiming in, that racism is over, right? There is no racism in the United States, or it's no longer racist, and those were mistakes of the past, and have spent the last 45 years, right, or most of that. That's the official line, and this is the attack on Black folks continuing to struggle to expand democracy, or for sovereignty, or for a decent, social infrastructure for everybody, right? We don't need affirmative action. We don't need these things. There is no racism, etc. Okay. So now, and up to this point, right, we'll make those claims, except now, they, at least a sector of them, have decided to throw off the denial. And really, I mean, in some ways, it's almost admirable. Or is it a symptom of some very serious form of mental illness, that they can, at the same time, there is no racism in this country, and we need to get rid of all the Black and brown people who are poisoning the blood of the country. Right? So you can be racist without being racist, because you say you aren't racist, but you can say and do racist things, and develop, racist policies, all of which to do what? Hold on to the power of the privileged settler at the same time, right? So, but it seems like that time is kind of over, right? Because there's been open declarations as the Republican Party, and this, as the Republican Party has openly embraced its right flank and continues to move more to the right, bringing the Democratic Party along with it. I mean, it's just open racism, right?
Yep. Yep.
I mean, who are they loving right now? The martyred in their eyes, Charlie Kirk.
Yes.
What was not racist about his shtick?
Yeah.
what is not racist about, and it may not specifically be anti-black, but what is not racist
Yes.
about Donald Trump coming down the golden elevator talking about all Mexicans are racists and all, or rapists and all this.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, you mentioned the snap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was this. It's really the snap discourse
Mm-hmm.
that got me thinking about. It's worth us talking about it
Mm-hmm.
tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And and the way in which that is now articulating, intersecting with, social media. Well, the social media platforms, but now artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So are you're aware of, maybe you've seen some of these artificial intelligence TikTok type videos of quote unquote Black women complaining about losing their SNAP benefits
No,
in
I'm
the most
sure I'm not.
stereotypical ways.
You're right, and I'm
And
sure
of
I'm not.
course,
But right, but I've heard about all of the AI, the racist AI.
There it is.
Caricature, new memorabilia.
Yeah.
Imagery.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the whatever kind of new memorabilia is being created.
No, I'm calling that the new memorabilia.
But these AI videos. I mean, it's interesting that you call them caricature, right? Because caricature is typically sort of obviously overblown.
Okay.
I mean, it's AI.
Okay,
they look real, right? You couldn't necessarily tell that they aren't real.
It's a whole problem.
And AI gets better with every iteration, right? It gets better at mimicking.
Right.
Now there are things in their language that indicates, okay, fake. But they're proliferating everywhere, and exactly promoting the myth again of the Black welfare queen, recipient, whatever, right? Just doubling and tripling down on all of the various stereotypes in the face of, and as folks have to respond to it, and even the sort of shock videos coming from many people. Oh, we didn't know most of the people on SNAP were actually white.
Yes.
We didn't know that Black people could barely get this kind of assistance until the 1960s. Oh, we didn't know. And that even fewer Latinx people, right, are getting these. Right. So you could probably add to that even fewer of the Asian communities. And again, as the Asian, various Asian communities are promoted as model minorities, right? Those who know and study and do the research realize that just how many of the various ethnic Asian communities are suffering, right? Are not, two doctors in the family and all this other stuff, right? That's so much a part of the model minority. Or how many of those South Asian families that maybe own and run little local motels and are working around the clock just to make that work. So and that uptick, this recent uptick in anti-Indian,
absolutely,
anti-Desi racism. I'm really reading that as a version of anti-Black racism. I mean, I'm just that's another iteration of anti-Black racism. Just because you're from Asia, don't think they don't call you ends behind your back.
Absolutely.
And these other terms that now are being popularized. So yeah, just that. That was the very thing that, and I thought about sharing one of the videos, but I don't want to share that crap. Okay. I don't want to. We don't need to. You can find it. You can find it. AI, fake.
Everybody's talking about it.
Everybody's talking about it. The So these versions, though. All right. So that's just one version, right? Again, this other stuff on social media. I don't know the woman's name. I'm glad I don't know her name. I don't need to promote her channel.
Mm-hmm.
But some, young white woman
Mm-hmm.
with a YouTube channel that is constantly spewing anti-black racism.
Mm-hmm.
So very recently, she does one that, her discussing what her costume is going to be for Halloween,
Okay.
and she's like, I'm going to be, no, not a vampire, not this, not that, just the scariest, most horrifying, bone chilling
Yeah.
being that one could that I find the most frightening,
Right.
a black woman.
Uh-huh.
And so she does though. She
Uh-huh.
does the whole blackface thing,
Yeah.
does all of her stereotypical stuff. Okay, that's that in and of itself. Yeah, we know they're racist. What matters is that she got over 1 million followers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's an audience for
Mm-hmm.
it and an
Mm-hmm.
embrace of it, right? And nobody
Mm-hmm.
and this open embrace,
Mm-hmm.
it's like people are feeling freed
And
up
a
to
hunger to
be
get back
them.
to it.
There you go.
Absolutely. Just a hunger to get back to Jim Crowisms, a hunger for that you know, for uh that kind of white privilege,
Mm-hmm.
which amounts to the privilege to denigrate and um, disparage everyone else,
Mm-hmm.
as we've talked about
Right.
before. Seems like the conversation that white supremacists have, that racists have, is that this is what they talk about. This is what this is what um, is important in society, to be white. That is
Mm-hmm.
it, and everybody else
And has to be
has.
preserved and protected at all costs.
Yes, it has to be preserved and protected at all costs, and that's all there is to look out and see when you see the world, and that is um, not the narrative of socially progressive people. It just isn't. Looking at elements of the world, and
Mm-hmm.
if they're not talking about how to, you know, protect their um, ability to extract from the earth, and the systems that support that, those processes. It's a very sick, empty mentality, yes, and it's on full display.
Yeah.
Um and so I hope after this, this era of a matured, um to some extent, or at least widespread, and somehow Black people having this sense of um, Black is beautiful, having some sense of, I know my Black history, I know what, I mean, having some kind of Black pride sensibilities after that, an era of Black power, and I'll say again, Black is beautiful, and these kinds of things, and more and on into Afrocentricity, and just whatever the popular narrative is, um, that perhaps more of us have um, just some kind of knee-jerk sensibility, that we're in one way or another less affected by these displays, less impressed by these displays, maybe less inclined to talk about, because there's so much the discourse of hurt, oh, that's so hurtful, oh, you've hurt my feelings, oh, I'm hurt. I don't know how many of us feel have that sense of feeling hurt, in that way, that there's some kind of truth inherent in these notions, in these attacks, in these kinds of ways of disparaging uh, the African, these ways of disparaging the African. But yeah, how to preserve the information that displaces that white supremacy and our internalized white supremacies, um, is very important to preserve, protect, and spread.
Well, one of the problems are these Black conservatives who are also well platformed on the social media, who have internalized it or are mercenary enough that they know where they can get a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
But that stuff is blowing up in their face,
Mm-hmm.
right? As again, the um, the public racist of the day, the
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Nick Fuentes,
Mm-hmm.
like many people identifying as the future of the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
The It's very clear in a recent comment he made that he's tired of he's had enough of the what he calls the Uncle Tom MAGA black conservatives. We don't need them. We don't want you, etc. We've had enough. I mean, it's been in the news, right? The Indian American conservatives who are being told, right?
Mm-hmm.
You aren't Christian enough, you aren't white enough.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you even
Mm-hmm.
trying?
Mm-hmm.
Now again, they're feeling themselves so much.
Mm-hmm.
The open anti-Semitism after we've spent what just the last 2 years now of anti-Semitism is a problem, and
Mm-hmm.
as a way to silence support for Palestine and
Mm-hmm.
Palestinians.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular current regime coming in on the white horse to shut down or discipline all the universities and get the anti-Semitism under control.
Mm-hmm.
Full on embracing, right, these open anti-Semites. Question: what are you going to do about that, Ben Shapiro? What are you going to do about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Nick Fuentes, who hates you,
Mm-hmm.
is the future of the Republican Party, and
Mm-hmm.
he may be, what does that mean for you,
Mm-hmm.
Ben Shapiro?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for you? What is the guy's name? Mark Levine,
Mm-hmm.
radio personality, longtime white racist
Mm-hmm.
radio personality in New
Mm-hmm.
York. The part of preparing the ground for what we're dealing with now. And it's so, these two aspects, right, of this re-energized and open colonial practice of racism coming together, right? So you've got the civil society um, proponents all over social media, uh, giving people, creating permission structures, right, for all kind of behavior. And then the actual, the very official racism of the current regime, both in its policies, right, the gutting and cutting of anything DEI. Never mind the fact that DEI is not a path toward liberation, and that is not revolution at all. That's just a recognition of the character of the society and
the need to distribute power across communities.
I wouldn't even say
One
the
way or
need to
another.
distribute power.
Okay.
Because they're not trying to share or distribute power, but the need to identify the best and the brightest from any community to put in service of power. And there's a range there, right?
Okay.
Because I'm not opposed to diversity, equity, and inclusion or affirmative action or all the things, but also recognize that it's deployed as a form of counterinsurgency, right? Our to get the colonized exactly right, and get our interest is with the institutions rather than with the people, but we don't refuse those, right? Because that's access to resources. What we forget is how to be double agents, right? When we get into these institutions of power. But that, right? So those policy things, right? The wiping away of the wiping of the whitewashing of historical narratives, right? The attacks on official memory, the museums, the libraries, the universities, the K through 12, all of that. But again, the real world impact in terms of people losing jobs, right,
Mm-hmm.
and being sent into a deeper economic stress
Mm-hmm.
because
Right.
of it, and then
Mm-hmm.
of course the active efforts to ethnically cleanse the society, right? I mean, this is what else is ICE doing? And Stephen Miller has been quite direct about that, right? And indeed,
Mm.
his boss has been, and so I know sometimes
Yeah.
we wonder who's actually the boss, but
Yeah.
Trump has been, so they're very
But this
clear,
is
both
yeah.
policy wise, the the um, the execution of that policy. So you got the state on the one hand, intensifying its racist praxis to consolidate power or to hold on to power, and then a significant part of the public, right, the civil society, following suit, taking the message of reading the message correctly around the permission structures, and here we are, right, living in this heightened um, environment.
Mm-hmm.
You were about to say something.
I don't remember what it was. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It might come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It might
All
come
right.
back.
Well,
It's
just
whatever, because
really,
it's
just
not
that.
particularly
Then that.
important.
And I'm just want to make the point, or one of the points I want to make is that it shouldn't be taken lightly. I mean, because
Yeah.
it's been the intensification has been real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Going back to
Yes. Yes.
the deployment of federal troops, or rather of the National Guard in D.C.
Yep.
And again, I'm thinking not so much about what the lies coming from the regime,
Yeah.
but some of these podcasters, right? And again, what's his name? This podcaster Benny Johnson. I've mentioned
Mm-hmm.
it before,
Mm-hmm.
calling for the bulldozing of black
Mm-hmm.
neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
calling for
Mm-hmm.
the ethnic cleansing
Right.
specifically of black
Right.
neighborhoods.
Right.
He again has been quite vocal around this SNAP thing, and how dare these people think they are entitled to benefits, entitled to food. I mean, this is amazing, right? These people are willing to starve anybody. They clearly they do not believe in the regime of human rights.
Mm-mm. No.
They will use it as an excuse to invade somebody, but they clearly don't believe in. I mean, even just
Mm.
the notion of, I don't even know how this. How dare you provide? Forget food. How dare you provide health care to undocumented
Yeah, I mean,
residents?
well, it's very, just very.
And then the Democratic response: nobody is giving, providing health care to. Well, you should, right? It's a human right. Everybody should have a right to health care regardless of status, right?
Mm-hmm.
Simply put,
Mm-hmm.
there should not even be a, well, we aren't providing health care to undocumented immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
You should. Why aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not just for the health of the citizens. You should be doing that because of
Mm-hmm.
communicable diseases. I mean, it's just,
Mm-hmm.
again, the
Mm-hmm.
racism is bad for your bank account,
Mm-hmm.
bad for your health. You white people, right? You folks who think you're benefiting from racism, it's bad for you. So
Mm-hmm.
much of the stuff we're talking about, the social safety net, the social infrastructure. Why don't we have it? I mean, honestly, yeah. And again, I'm not going to share a particular study with you this time. So you're gonna have to take my word for it now. You're gonna have to take my word for it. Viewers, you're gonna have to take my word for it. We can follow up with the actual report. Um, but it's been reported. Why don't we have, for example, universal health care? Something that Truman wanted to do in the mid 20th century, maybe Eisenhower too, even with his Republican but particularly Truman, because white people, and particularly Southern whites, but not only Southern whites, were willing to go without universal health care to make sure black people didn't get it because they didn't think we deserved it. So much of this stuff, they are willing to cut their own throats so that Black people, because they don't find us worthy. Never mind the fact that white, working class, and poor communities have always been the primary target and recipients of the social welfare programs. But that doesn't fit the post Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act racist narratives of undeserving Blacks, undeserving Mexicans, undeserving Indians, and I mean Native Americans by that one, undeserving immigrants broadly, and indeed undeserving poor whites when you get around to it, right? But they'll save them for last so they can be mobilized against everybody else. Right? But there's only, how popular is that idea in this country, though? You already mentioned, the progressive whites who are opposed to this stuff, and what the current MAGA base is actually down to 30% of solid support. Is continuing to drop. Anyway, I don't have anything to add or profound to say. Just want, I take it seriously though, that when people are the discourse gives the sets the permission structure, allows the ideation for the practice, right, that follows, and we should not be taking it lightly that bands of whites or just individual whites, we've already heard reports of folks taking it upon themselves to discipline people, to decide who can do what and go where already, and that should not be taken lightly. When people like whoever that chick is has 1 million followers on YouTube. However many people follow, what is this racist Reverend Joel Webbin, a Christian nationalist pastor who, for the very longest, right, is we're tired of having to deal with you Blacks. You should be grateful that you are here type stuff. I mean, old stuff, right? Oh, it's several of these Christian nationalist pastors using that language. And then these very kind of popular and platformed and well-funded Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, whoever is taking over for Charlie Kirk, I guess Erica Kirk, I don't know, and some of these other wannabe Charlie Kirks who've learned their lessons, right? And be ready for what's not what's coming, what's here, and which is only intensifying. The colonizers are clawing and scratching to hold on. So that's what we wanted to talk about a little bit tonight. That's all. Anti-Blackness on parade in so many areas. Things you thought, that were impolite or could get you fired. And I guess some of these folks are getting fired, right? There have been some private citizens who did some rants or whatever, and the next thing you know, they lost their jobs. That's those have been some things in the news. Because it's a major contradiction right now. Not everybody's on board. Not all white people are on board, but a significant number of white people are actually trying to do better, right? Trying to learn better, trying to understand, right? Are not afraid of diversity, are ready to rejoin humanity as just regular people. And that is the other thing I think has these reactionaries panicked, because they used to be the mainstream. They aren't the mainstream. Even as they're in power right now, they still aren't the mainstream. Maybe that's part of what Tuesday showed. right? These election results on Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
and the kind of turnout that came
Mm-hmm.
out,
Mm-hmm.
that
Right.
they aren't,
Mm-hmm.
these ideas aren't the
Mm-hmm.
mainstream,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still a significant part of the population
Mm-hmm.
that can cause a whole lot of trouble for a whole lot of people.
People. Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, we've talked about it, right? This is what James has been trying to prepare folks. Our comrade James Simmons been trying to prepare folks for years, right?
Yeah.
Because this is not coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Um, in what in It's the word I'm looking for. Inspired, um, emboldened,
Mm-hmm.
on a mission, white supremacist violence, and organized violence. What we just had, these couple of, were they shootings at HBCUs that are kind of unsolved or whatever, or the no clear motives,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, these sorts of
Mm-hmm.
things. Is anybody keeping track of what's happening with black churches?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Right.
the abuse of black people is just so quotidian that it doesn't make the news, right? If black people aren't reporting it, it doesn't necessarily get reported,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just, it as it has always been. So in
Mm-hmm.
this 40 plus years of, what are you talking about? Racism is over. What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
There's an unbroken line of mistreatment, maltreatment, abuse, brutality, false arrest, etc. But no, Tasha,
Mm-hmm.
racism is over. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're maybe not all the way there, but racism is over.
It's come
Despite
so
this
far.
pattern. Right. That's right. We've come so far.
Mm-hmm.
Ignore the pattern. Okay. Ignore, what's it? How's it go? Ignore your lying eyes.
Mm-hmm. Don't believe your lying eyes.
Believe
Mm-hmm.
me, not your lying eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, though, don't know how any reactionary, any liberal or moderate or centrist, anybody can, with a, you know full chest and open mouth, declare that, well, the United States is no longer really a racist country, despite the little pockets and stuff. It just that's got to fall flat right now. I mean, it's all there for the world to see. At what point, and that's another thing I'm wondering about, at what point do other countries decide to sanction the United States, recall their people from the United States? I mean, I think a little bit of that's going on, right?
Yeah.
The South Koreans said, we ain't coming back, or at least those words, like, we ain't coming back, right?
Yeah.
At what point? At what point does Colombia? You've been threatened. They have threatened to invade you. There are already U.S. troops there. Maybe you should expel them, right? Anyway, U.S. international policy is racist because it's colonialist and neo-colonialist. National domestic policy is racist because it's also colonialist and neo-colonialist, and they are feeling themselves. Question is, what can we expect? I expect an increase in violence, really. And how are we going to respond? And you have multiple times talked about our ongoing resistance, and even the ability not to overreact in the moment, because we're what did you expect? We're used to this. And they're apparently, the apparent calm of Black people is apparently freaking a lot of folks out too, right? Yeah, because maybe somebody got something for y'all. We'll see. Anyway, that's all. That's all I got to say. Yeah, that's all. Anti-Blackness on parade, and all the other racisms that go along with it. With, all the other anti-native, anti-indigenous, wherever the indigenous, wherever, right? And this has been the colonial practice for this last 600 years, right? And even the invention of race, the way we talk about it now, right? Coming out of this empire of the West of the last 600 years, and that's being too generous. Maybe the last 200 years, really, be a little more accurate. Anyway, I'm surprised it's already been almost an hour. We've been talking. We've been talking about this, so we don't have to continue. You got any final comments you want to make?
No, not really. I mean, it's very much it is what it is, and as you said, it's not coming; it's here, and we need to and will be able to walk aware and create our resistance, and it's anybody's game.
That part right there. How are we going to resist? How are we going to close ranks? I mean, some of the stuff, right? I haven't looked at some of it, partly because I don't want to see Black people humiliated, even if I disagree with them politically. But apparently, the many of these Black MAGA are getting their wake-up call, just like the South Asian MAGA. They are getting their direct wake-up call. Like you have your use is used up. You're just like the rest of them, if you didn't think so. And none of them have been immune to that. So we know Vivek has been getting it. Now Dinesh D'Souza has been getting it, and he's been one of their boys since the 80s, doing their their anti-Black discourse work for the longest, right? And now he's complaining about, oh, you're going to drive, Asians and Blacks and Latinos out of the Republican Party. Well, they don't want you in their white-only country. I already mentioned, Nick Fuentes being very direct about, his words. Uncle Tom, Black MAGA, Black conservatives, we're done with you. We don't need you. And he's talking to, who's that dude? I guess he might have even had a one-on-one with this dude, Tatum, Officer Tatum, somebody, this guy from Arizona, Black MAGA, Black conservative. Brandon Tatum, I'm not sure. But anyway.
I think it is Brandon Tatum.
Apparently, Fuentes went right, went right after him, basically humiliated him. Because what you going to say? If you're on their team, what you going to say? Going after, what's her name? Candace. All of them. Are they going to take the wake-up call? Something tells me no, that they're too committed, that they're too committed to their anti-Blackness. And that and I mentioned these Black conservatives, and some of them quite young, who have been some of the most outspoken and vicious and popular anti-Black voices, because of course they love them, right? Except now, where they're saying, your usefulness, you've done your job, we're done with you, you're just like the rest of the ends. Right? So, and like quite a few Black MAGAs seem to be having some crises. What, boss? You don't love me the way I love you? I thought we were all Americans and patriots, and no, that's not the case. So we'll see. Folks want to hold on to their fantasies, their delusions, the Republican delusions. I don't want to say they're the Democratic delusions, though I know there are Democratic delusions. That is delusions about the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
But that party might be undergoing a transformation now, because what worked didn't. People are rejecting that crap, right? The unpopularity of the Democratic Party is because it's unpopular with its own base. Um, so what happened on Tuesday is not necessarily an endorsement of the mainstream, centrist
Mm-hmm.
Democratic Party as much
Mm-hmm.
as it's a rejection of this madness coming from the regime. But I do think there was genuine enthusiasm for Mamdani and any move toward toward a genuine left. But we'll see how that plays out, because I fully expect the Democratic Party establishment to try to undermine their most popular candidate, because we cannot have socialism. Like I say, we can't have nice things in this country. We can't have things. We can't have, they don't want socialism. They don't want to have to pay a little extra taxes. What is it, like 1% more tax on money that they'll never spend in their life anyway? So anyway, I didn't stretch it out for another, I don't know, 6 minutes. Didn't even mean to do that. Trying to say good night, y'all. But I'm wary of, I am paying attention to this discourse of anti-Blackness and the other iterations of anti-Blackness, and what that's going to mean for the real world safety of people, safety of institutions. Again, with the state and this energized, a full embrace of racism, active racism, right? Malicious active racism, not the kind of passive, you just don't know better because of the environment in which we grow. So you just, you make assumptions that you can then be confronted with and try to do better. No, not those people. Be active, engage. We fully embrace it. We don't care. Coup anybody, take over anybody, mud people. We don't care. Those racists, they're the ones who are energized. They're the ones that are driving this discourse. They are doing so under all kinds of imprimaturs, right? The imprimatur of religion for many of these Christian nationalists, a political imprimatur for some of these political commentators, cultural imprimatur, as our culture. People don't even understand the culture of African Americans and other, Afro descended people in the United States. They don't care to know, right? But they've identified our culture as corrosive, even as everything in the popular culture is rooted in the culture produced by African Americans and Afro Caribbeans and the Afro Latin populations at the same time. All right, folks, we're saying good night. Please do the things that we need you to do. Please subscribe to our channel as we continue to try to grow. And have we ain't made it to 200 yet? Come on, y'all. Please like. We got to live with the tyranny of the algorithm. So please like to help us out with the algorithm, and share this. Get the word out. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, share and tell your folks to make comments. And you can make comments too. Would love to go check the the YouTube page one of these days and see that there are actually comments there. We might even respond. Would love to respond to some comments. So please, comment. And that's all. That's all. Don't be racist. Don't be racist. Don't be fascist. Do work to make things better. We can all. I mean, I know Rodney King asked it those many years ago. We can all get along, but not if we're being racist and fascist and colonialist. And I know those are synonyms, right? But I'm gonna disaggregate them. Don't be racist, fascist, colonialist. Be better than that. Be a comrade. All right, I guess I'll. Any last word? I know I asked you that already. Then I'll go ahead and end with what my usual ending, quoting Bob Marley. Revelation reveals the truth. Depends on how you read it. The only solution. Revolution is the only solution. Be a revolutionary, y'all. Make a revolution. And we will see you next time.